I truly do appreciate someone who is willing and brave enough to speak their mind, which is to say that I do appreciate the video that we are going to look at today. Though that doesn't mean I don't have a few things to say on the matter in the form of friendly debate, and when I don't have the time to fully debate someone via Skype at the moment, a commentary will have to do, I guess. Let's begin, shall we?
What is up, guys, from the dive, and you get to the things that keep you standing. Today is a video reviewing TOG's video or rant on worthless people. This is a video talking about people in his mind he sees worthless. This is probably going to be a short video. His video is only 6 minutes and 55 seconds, so if you want to go watch it, then you can watch it. But, anyways, on with the show.
If you will allow me to get my one and only pot shot out in this video, I would do so right now. I just love it when someone's audio randomly spikes as if they are moving back and forth away from their mic. Fix the audio quality, broski, because this quality sucks.
To begin with, this is going to be the same type of deal with my last week's video on BBC's review. It's going to be me taking his points and then spinning the web, using it to my advantage. Yeah, basically, if you know the reference to that lyric, then good for you.
Okay, I'm actually going to get 2 pop shots out here. It's really sad when it is completely and totally obvious, with only seeing the intro, that unscripted is not your forte. Could I suggest writing out your thoughts beforehand? That would really help.
So let's start with the first point. He mentions people with autism who are worthless. An example for this was never given throughout the video. I expected to see worthless people who had autism, but there was none. He gave examples of people who may or may not have autism, but no autistic people who are worthless. If that makes sense. That point is probably a bit confusing, so I'm sorry if you don't understand it, but yeah. And then this one's going to be like my one and only pointless point. He wastes a minute on the subject of autism just to change subjects. That kinda irked me. Like, you wasted a minute just to not even talk about it. Like, come on. Half and half.
Here's the issue with this point right here. I didn't say people with autism are worthless. I rewatched the video that I made to make sure that those words never left my mouth because I honestly don't believe that they are. For me to say that everyone with autism is worthless would be a hard thing to do since quite a few of my closest friends, both online and offline, are indeed autistic. The only reason that subject was brought up was to lay the groundwork and backstory to why I was making that video in the first place. And I specifically stated in that video that it was not on autistic people. To an extent, you are taking my words out of context, whether due to a lack of understanding of what I was saying or another reason that I don't know of. But if I honestly had said something like that everyone with autism was worthless, I would be a liar and deserve to be strung up by my boss for saying that. Hence, I would never do so.
Alright, now let's get into the juicy part. He forgets to add this as an opinion. He keeps mentioning how this is about worthless people, worthless people, worthless people. But he has to realize he has a base of 1.1 thousand people watching his videos. Well, on this video, 400. So let's say that's the max, because as I look at other videos by him, there's a general consensus of 400 people watching. Now, that's 400 people he's affecting. Now, if these people love his videos religiously, he will be affecting these people with his own views. That is bad because he needs to let them conclude what worthless people are. This whole video is an opinion. What one man sees as worthless, another can see as worthful. So, you need to understand, if something is subject to affecting another, you have to, if you want to be seen professionally, you need to add the fact that it's your opinion. Unless you're in a business standpoint, then you want to push and push and push. But we're not selling a business, we're selling opinions. So make it known that this is your opinion, or you may have another man saying this as fact, and you don't want that.
I have said this a million times before, and I will say it yet again here. You do not have to preference or conclude a statement with the phrase, in my opinion, for it to be an opinion. I never said anywhere in that particular video that those viewpoints were facts. If someone comes into a video of this sort and takes what I say as fact and nothing short of fact, that is something they will have to work out in their own mind. I have never said that anything I say is a fact unless I cite undeniable evidence, which I never did in that video. If what I said came across as me trying to sell it as a fact, then that was a flaw on my part and not my intention. In all honesty, when you're learning to give presentations, you do not preface or close everything you say with the words, in my opinion, because in all honesty, to say those phrases over and over again throughout a presentation is very, very unprofessional. And anyone who coaches you in giving presentations and giving speeches will tell you to not do so because of how unprofessional and how unnecessary these phrases are. Because it is an understood thing that what you are saying is indeed an opinion unless you give undeniable evidence to preference what you are stating.
So to start off with 3 examples, he gave 4, but I do not use the 4th because 3 was enough in my head. The drunk man who has a hangover the next day and complains. Now, I see how this can be an inconvenience to society, but worthless in society, I don't see how. Now, hypothetically, let's say this man had a child. This child will see their father drink on the weekends and then goes to work the next day. That will leave an impression on the child, and that child will have to conclude whether they want to follow that father's footsteps or change their route. That isn't worthless, but more so effective. Not affecting. So, yes, he's affecting the society around him in a negative light, but that's still having an impact. Worthless is if they're shit. But I will get into that later. I will give my own examples of worthless.
Here's the issue I see with this point in particular. You took what I said as someone who occasionally gets plastered and then complains about it. What I was talking about are the people who get drunk 4 to 5 nights out of the week, and I have known these people in my life. Not someone who occasionally gets drunk or has a drink every now and then. Because I myself will have a drink on an occasion. Just ask Sarah the cat. She knows all about it. Though there is something to say about a person who knows that they have responsibilities to take care of, but then decides to get completely and totally piss-ass drunk anyway, knowing that this action will negatively affect their abilities and performance when doing so. Then also to say someone who gets drunk every weekend in front of their child is another story completely. As someone who has been personally affected by drunks who lashed out in rage when they are drunk in the forms of an ex-brother-in-law and a deceased grandfather, I feel that these people are worthless in their own rights, for the fact that studies show that children of alcoholics are twice as likely to become alcoholics themselves, and it also increases the chances for abuse of any form depending on the alcoholic in question. As a father myself, I do indeed see these people as worthless for the sole fact that they are scarring their children in ways that are sometimes irreversible and shouldn't really be parents to begin with. Take that one as you will and with a grain of salt, please.
Then there's the detox marijuana smoker wanting a job. Again, how is that worthless? He's not really affecting anyone. I know how the last one I mentioned how that man can affect the society around him in a negative way, but still affect people to change their business. But this man, he's more of not affecting the society in a negative way. He's like he mentioned the repercussions of this man's actions. If anything, he's like hindering himself. He's not hurting anyone by smoking marijuana, needing detox pills to go to a job. You know who that hurts? Himself. So how is that worthless? That's more so inconveniencing himself.
To this one, I like to say you obviously haven't been around that many stoners. They will have more of an effect on others around them than you are giving them credit for. Their actions will affect their families and friends. I have seen people lose their jobs because they could not get rid of the joint, because they refused to seek help, and that affected their children in the fashion of the parent not being able to support them in the way they should. Though they really weren't doing a good job on that beforehand because they were spending more money on getting their next high than buying necessities of life. I have also seen these same people using government aid that could have been used to support someone who really needed it, and which is a waste of tax dollars which affects everyone, which is an effect on society in general. The main issue here is that you are not looking at the full picture. Now I will also say this. The use of marijuana or alcohol in moderation is not a terrible thing, nor is the use of medical marijuana via prescription. The only time it becomes an issue is when it is an addiction that takes complete control of you to the point where the addiction is more important to you than anything else, and you refuse help or assistance to work on said problem. I wasn't very clear with this in my video, which was nothing short of an error on my part. Someone who is willing and actively working to correct this and to turn their lives around is not worthless. Someone who doesn't care and refuses to do anything about it is.
And then for his third example, which is the worst example, is of the man wanting or aspiring to join the military just to think that it's a game of some sort and things like that. That's as far as I'm going to describe that scenario, because it was just the same thing with different scenarios. Now I don't see this as worthless. Any man willing to join the ranks to fight for our country cannot be worthless. He wants to fight for yours, mine, everyone's safety. Even if that's not his agenda, that's what he'll be doing. So, therefore, he cannot be worthless. He's putting himself in the fight of the fire. So, therefore, he cannot be worthless.
You know what? You are completely and totally correct. The person you described is not worthless. They're just ignorant of the truth and due for a very rude awakening when they learn the military is not a game. But here's the issue. You are leaving out a very important factor in the description of who I was talking about. I mentioned about how they went AWOL 3 times. And for anyone who doesn't know what that is to leave the military base and the military in general without permission. Then they purposefully injured themselves in an effort to receive a medical discharge with honors because they didn't want to be in the military anymore, despite the fact that they hadn't even finished basic training. Someone who joins the military and is willing to follow through with their commitment is not worthless in my eyes. To say so would be for me to say this about many members of my own family, including one cousin who was a member of the 101st Airborne that is now, with his current position, could be anywhere in the world on a black op and we will never know where he is. And then another who fought his way up to the rank of general, and one more who was a member of the Navy with the rank of captain who sadly passed away due to cancer. Which is something I would never do. I would never call these people worthless. If the person I mentioned had fought and made it through his commitment to the military and to the country without looking for the easy way out, then he would not be worthless in my mind. There is also the fact that me and many other people attempted to stop him before he entered the military because we knew for a fact that he wouldn't make it due to the way that he was and how well we knew him. This was another point where I feel you omitted certain items that were important, which caused you to misquote me way out of context.
I will give you an example of worthlessness. Even recently, we've seen things like the Boston bombing, the Sandy Hook shooting, the Colorado movie shooting. Those 4 people who did those tasks, those are worthless. Wanna know why? Those 3 people are insane. They killed multiple people. They've ripped the people they killed away from their families to never bring them back. They've hindered people and handicapped them. Those people are worthless. They did not contribute to society in any way. They hindered society, made it go backwards. Make us second thought the very laws we established in our Constitution. They basically made our society devolve into a time where we question ourselves and look left and right for a man who doesn't exist. And that man is righteousness.
Before you go any further, I would like to point this out.
That isn't worthless, but more so effective. Not affecting. So, yes, he's affecting the society around him in a negative light, but that's still having an impact. Worthless is if they're shit.
To use your definition that you gave earlier in your own video, which I just played, would be to say that these people you are stating in your mind as worthless are not worthless, but actually very useful. This will be the Achilles heel for the remainder of the examples you are going to give from here on out, as well as because what you are saying now is a complete contradiction to what you said earlier in this video. I will lay the blame on your video being unscripted and that not being your forte, as it were. To that purpose, I will be skipping your next example because there is no defense for a rapist, and I will not attempt to do so past saying that your definition that you gave earlier still would fit into that example.
Basically, there are many examples of worthless people TLG did not reference. In my head, these are people you have to reference. The killer, the serial killer, the rapist, the thief. These people are taking sensual thought processes and ridding them of the owner. They take correction, judgment, justification, righteousness away from the very people they affect. A man drinking to go to work the next day and complain is ridding no one of correction, justification, and whatever two examples I used previously.
To that, I will say this. You are saying that if I made a video giving the examples of rapists, child molesters, and murderers, then you would have been right behind me with no issues. Here's the issue with this personally. Why would I want to make a video talking about the exact same people you have heard about a million times before? To make a video of that sort would be way too easy and would not start what I was hoping for with that video, which is honest debate and thought process. Though I am not entirely sure what you're talking about saying a thief ripping sexual thought from others, or that these people are taking correction, justification, righteousness, and judgment away from their victims, since the victims will have the ability to pass righteous judgment against those who have wronged them in the court of law, and by doing so the victims themselves can be awarded with justification, and correction would be passed upon the transgressor.
A man smoking marijuana to get detox pills for an interview. They do not rid them of the four examples I use. The man wanting to join the ranks do not rid these people of those four things. A man wanting to do all these things, whether it be smoking, drinking, or wanting to join the ranks, those people are not worthless.
Shit, you forgot to conclude that statement with "in my opinion," didn't you? That means you were trying to pass this along as a factual statement, aren't you? I just felt like you should see how that sounds coming from the other side of the debate. Sounds kind of stupid, doesn't it?
Depending on the situation, they may be hindering, or they may be immature. But they are not worthless. They're just another being on this earth. TLG, you probably won't see this video, so I won't send a message to you, but if you happen to, I don't mean to offend you. It's just a review from me to another person.
Kind of strange that you say that you will not send this to me and then make it a video response to my video, which would then mean that I would receive a notification that it is out there. Though, to be honest, I'm not offended at all, because I feel this opens the ground for a very healthy debate and the possibility for personal growth among anyone who views these videos through said debates. With that, I will end the video, since all he does is conclude his video, which I will now follow suit. This is the Professor, and once again, and as always, everyone, I bid you all a very fine adieu. On a side note, Obsession Octopus would have a few things to say to you about saying that all military members deserve respect, regardless of their reason on entering the military.